Patrick Bailey out, Bryce Harper in. What? It's all coming up on Locked On Giants.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm Alan Stiles. Welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now the #1 sports podcast network. On the show, we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that combines passion, analytics with the eye test, and a little bit of fun. I'm from the Bay Area, but I live in Sacramento now, and I host a show at Sacktown Sports 1140, the Alan Stiles Show. Be sure to check that out, as well as emceeing Sacramento Rivercats games. All in all, I'm lucky enough to cover a team I've been a fan of all my life. Today, we are discussing how Patrick Bailey was on the trading block before the trade deadline and what that means about his status this offseason. Could the Giants target Bryce Harper this offseason as well? And are the Giants handling these coaching changes for Tony Vitello's bench the correct way? Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. So when I first read this, I was a little surprised, but I was surprised that it got out because I did hear some things after the trade deadline, just as far as who had been talked about a little bit and the rumblings. But Shayna Rubin of the SF Chronicle, it's funny because she released it in an article where she's breaking down all the needs of the San Francisco Giants, and it kind of comes off as a back burner topic, but I really think it should be at the front of the conversation just based on what Patrick Bailey has done so far and who he's been on this Giants team. So she breaks it down based on needs and has a write-up for each need. And this is what she had to say about the catcher position. Quote, "This is tricky. Patrick Bailey is considered one of the best defensive catchers in baseball, winner of 2 gold gloves and likely a platinum glove. Obviously, he didn't end up getting it. He was robbed, by the way. It's a fan vote. It's very annoying. For his exceptional pitch framing abilities that StatCast estimates created a 25-run advantage for San Francisco. But who knows how much the advent of automatic balls and strikes will impact Bailey's pitch framing value going forward. Offensively, Bailey was often dreadful." Okay, Shayna. "According to sources, the team briefly considered trading Bailey at last year's deadline. Though there isn't a strong motivation to trade him, it's something they could consider. Bailey's bat hasn't been a plus, but he would be difficult to replace. JT Realmuto, who's 35, is the best free agent catcher available, and he was in Philadelphia this past season. 2 gold gloves and 3 all-star nods to his name. There were rumblings that Orioles catcher Adley Rutschman, 27 years old, might be traded when Baltimore signed their other young catcher, Samuel Basallo, to a long-term deal. Minnesota's Ryan Jeffers is another potential trade target, though not a standout defensive catcher. He batted .246 with 30 home runs over his past 2 seasons with the Twins, and perhaps new coach Jace Tingler can vouch for him. Realistically, the Giants can most easily upgrade the backup catcher position, which Sam Huff and Andrew Kisner took on with Tom Murphy injured all year. Jesus Rodriguez, acquired from the New York Yankees in the trade deadline for Camilo Doval, would have been with the big league team if not for a shoulder injury. The Giants are high on his bat-to-ball skills. They've been high on most players with keen contact ability, and he may slide into the role for 2026. So great stuff from Shayna, of course, kind of letting that all come out to light. And as she's breaking down these other catchers, that doesn't necessarily mean that there would be a trade with Patrick Bailey per se, but it does beg the question where Patrick Bailey's value is at this point in time, not just with the Giants, but in the league, right? It tells me one thing specifically, that hitting does matter, as because you can't get any better defensively, but hitting does matter. And the second thing it tells me is that this ABS situation is real and it will change how these catchers are valued, and how in a league where most of these teams don't have any breaks in their lineup, you cannot have a break in your lineup. So I think it's a great note to bring up. Would I move Patrick Bailey personally? It just depends on what it is. I think having Jesus Rodriguez is going to push Patrick Bailey. I'm on record saying that, and I'll continue to say that. But you'd have to sacrifice defensively what Patrick Bailey brings to move on to Jesus Rodriguez, and then on top of that, hope that Jesus Rodriguez, his hitting actually is real. And I can say this based on what I saw in Sacramento, his hitting was real. We talked about Jesus Rodriguez last week. We've talked about him a lot on the show, and yeah, he's got to be better. There's a lot of swing and miss, and not so much swing and miss. He just swings at bad pitches. Right. And he doesn't have a ton of pop per se, but he is a classic catcher that's going to get on base and do different things. Could he be as good as, and this is another guy who I think might be the most underrated player in the league. And I know it's not easy to be nice to Dodgers players, but a Will Smith type of guy. I think Will Smith is probably going to be better than Jesus Rodriguez will be defensively, but hitting wise, could he get there? I know Will Smith, like I said, he's just kind of the unsung hero on that team, but does he have that to him? Could Patrick Bailey get to where Will Smith is hitting wise? I don't know, but the switch hitting thing, you probably got to give that up and choose a side, probably the left side, and just focus on that. As the old saying goes, jack of all trades, master of none. It's cool when you are able to switch hit, and you just think about from the perspective of what catchers have to do, even growing up, the switch hitters got to hit on both sides, right? You get 10 swings there, 10 swings on the other side. Then on top of that, you got to go get the pitchers ready, whatever the case is. So there's already a lot on your plate. You got to run the defense. So to then try to pinch hit or to switch hit, I don't necessarily think that is the best recipe for success, and it hasn't really been for Patrick Bailey. He had his moments, the walk-off grand slams, things like that, but yeah, it's about time that he kind of zeroes in on who he wants to be as a hitter, because he's going to have to be better with this ABS just right on his heels, and it's not right on his heels, it's going to arrive. So I would definitely think about moving Patrick Bailey. Just depends on what it's for. I would have liked to see Jesus Rodriguez a little bit before doing that. But if you're trading him for, like, JT Realmuto to me is interesting because you could bring him in. Yeah, he's 35, but you're kind of getting a bridge catcher because you believe in Jesus Rodriguez. I don't know if defensively, as Jesus Rodriguez has continued to improve, I don't know if you want to make that choice right now to move on from the best defensive catcher in the game, even with ABS on the way, to then usher it in with JT Realmuto, who's 35, who's going to need time off, right? And then see what you have with Jesus Rodriguez, who has not seen big league pitching yet, and see what that does. And then you got to catch at a big league level too. I do think it's a path. I do think it would work out, but you really got to hope that Jesus Rodriguez works out. And that's kind of the catch-22 of it. But yeah, and I'm going to send some texts out to see if we can find out what was the move for pitching or what it was, because it's kind of crazy if it was for prospects, whatever it is. I do wonder if it was a matter of, hey, we're going to piecemeal the catcher thing together. Was it for a catcher? The Jesus Rodriguez thing, obviously he was injured. So it doesn't feel like it was a win now move to upgrade the catcher position this season hitting wise. It may have been, we're going to sacrifice the catcher position for the rest of the season, and then we feel like we'd be in a good place moving forward. So interesting stuff there, but had to let y'all know that is floating around. So that tells me that Patrick Bailey is available right now. He is. And I can confirm that the Giants are at least open to it. Right? You don't go from being open to closed. If anything, you're more open because there's more time to talk about it in the offseason. So we'll see what happens there. On the other side, Bryce Harper, often a foe of the San Francisco Giants. Could he join the Giants simply because of his connection with one of the coaches? We'll tell you who it is and what's going on when we return. More Locked On Giants coming up. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. I have to tell y'all about my new favorite jeans. My Doers. Seriously, they've changed my life. Right now, I'm wearing the Performance Denim Slim Straight, and I cannot get over how comfortable these jeans are. I've been reaching for my Doers for everything, running errands, grabbing dinner with friends, even heading to the ballpark because they look great and feel even better. Here's the thing. Doer jeans have 5 times the stretch of traditional denim, so you can actually move in them. They're also antibacterial, which means they stay fresh longer, wear more, wash less. And they're made with Cool Max technology that helps regulate body temperature and wick moisture, so you stay cool and comfortable as the day changes. Honestly, they feel as stretchy as my favorite joggers, but look like I'm dressed to go out on the town. Doer is all about combining classic jeanswear style with athletic level comfort and performance, the best of both worlds. They actually pioneered the original performance denim, blending technical innovation with everyday clothing that looks sharp and feels incredible. Simply put, Doer makes the world's most comfortable pants without sacrificing style. Once you try them, they'll be your go-to pair. Trust me. And if you're in San Francisco, check out Doer's store at 567 Hayes Street. Pick up a pair for yourself or grab one as an amazing holiday gift. Mention my promo code Locked On SF in store to get 15% off your first order, or shop online at shopdoer.com/LockedOnSF for that same 15% off. That's shopdoer.com/LockedOnSF. Your new favorite jeans are waiting. So this also is from Shayna Rubin's article, and she admits that this is outlandish, but sometimes it's fun to go outlandish, especially on a Monday. Keep those case of the Mondays away. And as she's breaking down all the different positions, she breaks down this position as a right fielder, which is something to keep in mind. I have more on that a little bit later in the segment, and this is what she has to say. Quote, and here's an outlandish, perhaps entirely out of the realm idea that may trigger San Francisco fans. Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper is under contract with the Phillies for the next 6 seasons of his 13-year deal, but controversy rose to the surface weeks ago when Phillies manager Dave Dombrowski hinted that Harper's elite playing days were behind him, and Harper responded to The Athletic that he was hurt by the comments, sparking trade rumors. How is this relevant to the Giants? Only that new manager Tony Vitello appears to have a friendship with Harper, and maybe that would open up his no-trade clause to include San Francisco. Out there, sure, but the Devers trade didn't feel plausible before the Giants acquired him from the Red Sox in June either. Yeah, and it's funny because this Giants regime, they've just done a bunch of things that no one has seen coming. You have obviously Devers, and then you have Tony Vitello. So it would kind of fit that mold. Everyone's thinking you're going to go left, and then you go ahead and go right. If I'm not mistaken, Bryce Harper, who you skipped the 4-year school thing because he's Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper was in a Tennessee jersey, or I think he ended up going to a game when they were at the College World Series, or he was out there. He's repped Tennessee before. They definitely have a relationship. I think Bryce Harper kind of feels like if I were to play college baseball, I'd want to play for Tony Vitello. So I think that's part of the connection there. Also, I gotta pause real quick because I am legally obligated to tell people anytime I talk about Bryce Harper that my team did play him in a summer league game when I guess I was probably 17 and he was 15, and we did split. We beat them the first game and they beat us the second game. And Bryce Harper, we had one of our little lefties in. He goes first pitch curveball, and Bryce Harper hit a ball that probably hasn't landed yet. So I am legally obligated to bring that up every time that I talk about Bryce Harper, just to let y'all know, look, we shook hands, so I got to see Bryce up close and personal. So I got love for Bryce. I think that he was part of this first wave of let the kids play, letting his helmet fly off. And I don't think it was easy for him early on. You know, there was him, there was even Yasiel Puig back in the day. So I think that Bryce has had a not a rough go. I think he's had an outstanding career, but I do think he's a little bit underrated because the expectations were so crazy. So as a player, as a fan of the game of baseball, and as a former competitor to Bryce Harper, I love him. As an analyst and somebody who covers the Giants and host of Locked On Giants, I can't do it. I'm sorry, Bryce. I cannot do it. Now, if you are in my camp and you don't want to do it, I have something that might change your mind. Remember, Shayna had this written as far as the right fielder. Well, Bryce hasn't played right field since 2022 with his Tommy John, but he was interviewed back in March of 2025 about whether or not he would be interested in going back to the outfield if need be. This is what Bryce had to say. I talked to them, talking about the coaching staff and front office. I talked to them this offseason about that. Harper told The Athletic, just in case a guy was available at first that we needed to get, I'd be more than open to it. If we had a guy like that who is going to change our lineup or change the demeanor of our team, they like me at first, but I'd go out there to have a guy who is going to play first and hit 35 or 40 homers. When Pete Alonso was on the block, I still kind of sat there and was like, hey, why not? When we talked about it, I kind of just reiterated to the Phillies and Scott Boras that I'm willing to move out there if it's going to help us. I love playing first base. It's been great. But if it's going to help us win, I'd go back out there. So I just think Bryce is just, the Nationals winning as soon as he left. He signs this crazy deal. The Phillies are spending so much money, and they just haven't been able to get it done. I think Bryce wants to win really, really bad, but 6 years left on the deal. I think he's signed. I think it goes through age 38. I believe 38, and the next 3 seasons he's at 27 million. Then it drops down to about 23 million until he's 38 years old. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I don't see, I guess the way to look at this, if you want, would be a different version. And I don't know what you would have to give up, but a different version of signing Cody Bellinger. But Cody Bellinger, Bryce is 33, Cody is 30. Right? Cody is 30 years old. He's a free agent right now, so you don't have to give anything up. I don't know what Bryce would cost. Like I said, I love Bryce as a player. I love what he's done for the game. Even though he's had some scuffles with the Giants, my interactions with Bryce predates that. And my, battles with Bryce in Summer League of, I don't know where we were. I think Reno or something like that. But it just doesn't make a ton of sense from the Giants' perspective. There are so many other options out there. Now, again, you don't have to give up anything for Cody Bellinger. He's a free agent, depending on what that price tag looks like. If the price is depressed on Bryce and you don't have to give up much, sure, I would think about it. But again, and that price tag drops down to 23 when now at that point, right, you're talking 35 in 2 years. You're basically going to get Bryce in the outfield for 2 more years. He's 33 years old. So he's not going to be playing in the outfield at 35, 36, 37. And you're going to be paying him 23 mil. I just think that there's too much of a logjam at first already, too much of a logjam at DH as well. I just can't see it happening. I can't see it happening. And I got love for Bryce, as I said, but there's just no way I can do it. I can't do it. I would love to do it. If he had initially signed with the Giants, we know it was somewhat close. That'd be one thing, but I can't do that now. I can't. But it is an interesting thought, and the Giants have been doing random stuff this whole time, so you never know. You never know. One more segment with you. Let's discuss, are the Giants handling coaching changes correctly? Do you have a problem with them not holding on to enough of the previous coaching staff? More Locked On Giants coming up. The NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it's frustrating. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games as low as $100. The app made it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. And I love zone deals. You pick the section and Game Time picks the seats and you save big. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've bought tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB, LOCKEDON for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go download Game Time today. So last segment today, we are discussing whether or not the Giants are handling their coaching changes the right way. Before I get to that, just real quick, they have officially announced Bruce Bochy. Boch is back in San Francisco. Giants hire Bruce Bochy as special advisor to baseball operations. Here's what they had to say. The San Francisco Giants announced today that former manager Bruce Bochy has returned to the organization as a special advisor to baseball operations. In his new role, Bochy will perform duties both on the baseball and business side. We are thrilled to welcome Boch back to the Giants family as a special advisor to baseball operations, said Larry Baer, Giants president and CEO. Few people in baseball have his depth of knowledge, insight, and lived experience of the game. He shares a rich history with our organization and fans, and it's special to have him back in the orange and black. Having Boch back in the organization means a great deal to all of us, said Giants president of baseball operations, Buster Posey. His experience, leadership, and feel for the game are unmatched, and his perspective will be invaluable as we continue building towards sustained success. I couldn't be more excited to reconnect with the Giants organization and so many familiar faces, said Bochy. This organization and city mean a lot to me and my family, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to contribute in any way I can. So that is the breakdown. Bruce Bochy will be the special advisor to baseball operations. So good to have Boch back in the fold. Just wanted to bring this up though. And this was from NBC Sports Bay Area. This is what Tony Vitello had to say initially with the question as far as how the coaching staff will be broken down. Quote, I think it would be great to retain some of the staff at a minimum for some consistency, Vitello said. I think some new blood would be great. I think some major league experience, and by that I mean cleats in the dirt and in certain situations, even if it's just one or two guys. The big thing for my input, and so far I don't think I'm being tricked, it's a collaborative vibe and a collaborative effort mindset that's going on over at the park when we all get together, or if it's on Zoom or a teleconference. In terms of qualities Vitello values most in his coaches, there are two that are most important to him. And so when my input is welcomed, loyalty and team chemistry is huge. And that's got to start with the coaching staff, because the players, whether they're 19 years old or 35, they can sniff it out if the coaches aren't on the same page, Vitello added. And the players have their own deal where they've got to come up with stuff behind the scenes when the coaches aren't around, where they get along. And ultimately, if you're going to have not just a good team, but a great team, then everyone's got to kind of intersect, and the whole deal has to be, it's a cliche for some reason, one group pulling on the same rope. Well, as we discussed on Friday, JP Martinez will not be pulling at that rope. And this is from Pavlovich. And what was interesting was how Pavlovich wrote this. Giants will be looking for a new pitching coach. JP Martinez, who had hoped to stay, is now Atlanta's bullpen coach. So the reason Pavs is writing it like this is clearly the Giants said, no, thank you. And then JP Martinez got picked up as a bullpen coach. He obviously didn't want to leave, but was asked to leave, or in some capacity, hey, we're going to go in a different direction. So are the Giants doing this the correct way? They've moved on from certain big names already. Pat Burrell, we know he's going to be in the organization, but doesn't sound like he's going to be the hitting coach again. And I think the reality is, when you don't succeed, even if it wasn't necessarily on you, it's all together. That's what Tony Vitello is saying. So everybody from the regime of Bob Melvin, that rope didn't get where they needed it to get. So I don't really expect the Giants to hang on to a ton of those coaches, even if the coaching staff, or excuse me, the pitching staff wasn't really the issue. It's all connected. That's normally how this thing goes. So it's not terribly surprising. Do I think they're handling it correctly? I think it doesn't matter whether I think they're handling it correctly or not. The Giants have told us, we just talked about it earlier in the show, the Giants have told us they're going to do whatever the heck they want when it comes to this whole process. They are not going to do things the quote unquote traditional or normal way. So sometimes guys get to stay. Vitello said some of the guys will stay. Some of the bigger names, though, hitting coach, pitching coach, they want to clear out. And I don't think there's a huge issue with that. I think that the most important thing is that this is the last one. Right? This is the last kind of go round. And I know Buster's just getting in the fold, but you take a guy like Logan Webb. He's had so many different coaches, it feels like already. You got to get this one right. And they simply felt like they needed new blood in the most important pieces of this. And they told us from Jump Street when they said, hey, whoever we hire for the actual manager role, it's not going to be an internal thing. So they've continued to tell us, we want something new. We want something fresh. So I think that it's been fine how they've been going about it. You know, when we're watching these games day in, day out, the Pat Burrell thing came up because the Giants couldn't hit, right? But we don't go into this. Fans don't typically go into this breaking down, oh, man, I think that's a hit. I think that's a miss when it comes to the coaches. You just talk about it when there seems to be an issue, right? The Giants had a good lineup, not a great lineup. I know one time I said they could be top 12 based on who gets into the playoffs. But the Giants had a good lineup, right? Could be great, but they were underachieving for a good bit of it. So then you start looking around saying, well, who's the hitting coach anyway, right? If the pitching underachieves, you say, well, who's the pitching coach? But at the end of it and at the helm of it is Bob Melvin. So anybody connected to that, it's going to be hard for them to hang around. So I think they're handling it the way that they want to handle it. I think every team is going to handle it. Every organization is going to handle things differently. And I don't really have a problem with it. Start fresh, you know, because it is tough when you let guys hang around. Well, especially with somebody like Tony Vitello, maybe the Giants feel, well, this is going to be completely different. And it's just better to clear it out as far as the bigger names are concerned. Well, that's not how we tip. And I'm not saying that JP would even say any of this, but, well, that's not how we typically do things. Or I've been around the league for this long, and this is how this works, that works. The Giants just kind of want a clean slate, and I don't have a huge problem with it. We will be back tomorrow. Thank you for listening to Locked On Giants. Thank you for watching Locked On Giants. Be sure to follow me on social media at _Styles Files, Styles with an I. Also, our TikTok and X account, Locked On Giants. It is going to be a good week. I don't know why I got a feeling something might happen, but I have plenty to break down. We only got 30 minutes. I have plenty to break down tomorrow. There is more coming up, more logistical moves, more rumors. You do not want to miss it. It's going to be a huge week here on LOG. So tell your friends about me. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, peace.